selection. They chose first pick, so we'll see what their priority is going to be. Right now, things that are left open, Pantheon immediately, TN's most played in this split, and I think probably the most dangerous jungle to be giving over. But Karma also is, I think, probably the premier support.
Yeah, number of things you can go alongside this pick. Ooh, look at the full screen.
What? We get a full screen of that?
Very cool. I was going to say the Ezreal would make a lot of sense alongside it, but it's going to be taken away by Hope instead. Get paired alongside the Pantheon here for Tarzan. Some point-and-click CC. Very helpful in the jungle, and also one of TN's most played in his return to gameplay in 2026.
This might be one of my worst casts of the year. I'm going to be way too distracted. There's going to be insane visuals, and I'm just going to have to keep calling on them. But Ezreal Pantheon, I think a good takeaway. Also one of Tarzan's best champions we've seen so far this split. So breaking up the Ezreal Karma pair makes sense, but I need to see a little bit more. This is a rather flexible 1-2 coming in from AL. That does give them different options that they can move into. Top Esports, though, if this is a Caitlyn lock-in, JiaQi Love Karma with Caitlyn, that sounds like a lane I want to sign up and watch.
A lot of ability to push, to shove, to harass when you have these two champions on your side, but it will be the Xin Zhao instead. Getting that champion alongside an enchanter in the Karma certainly makes a lot of sense for Tian. Hopefully turn him into a bit of a hyper carry alongside this Annie, which is always a great mid jungle as well.
So Xin Zhao with Karma Annie. This might be a game where Tien actually gets to completely smurf. I mean, you have so much setup now. Didn't opt for the Caitlyn, and now there will be probably a lot more focus towards the bot lane. For Top Esports, I think the focus now is making sure that Zweon gets a favorable matchup. It is likely that he is going to have to blind, considering AL are going to be going for, they will have counter pick at the end of the day. And so, I'm thinking of things that you would probably want to set up. I do think Corki starts to kind of come into focus. Corki and Karma can definitely be a very dangerous duo. And right now for AL, it is about playing the map very wide, which I think with a Ryze and a Pantheon, that makes me a little bit worried for a player like Creme.
Still a lot of options on the table. Banning away the Anivia, not just against Shanks, but also something that Flandre in the top lane could whip out. Our producer Ilya said that he's also been spamming the Anivia in solo queue in the top lane. So we talked about how flexible this guy is, how much experience he has on all these different champions. Another wrinkle put into the system here as bot lanes will be targeted. Those the Caitlyn that was hovered and the Sivir that potentially could work alongside this Karma as well.
Like the Anivia ban, just making sure you don't have to play against it if you're playing this bot lane, which to me does scream that we kind of want to go towards some of those other lanes. It sucks to see for JiaQi Love that Sivir and Caitlyn are already banned. So I wonder, are we just going to prioritize Corki? Because Corki into some of the lower range here can be good, but might be a little less playable when you're going into things like the Ryze later on when he's sitting on 2 and 3 items with that completed Rod of Ages and Seraphs.
As we get to the second phase, what will the rest of this draft hold? The Ashe not available, but the Seraphine is, and so we're going to see Kael pick that one up, certainly. A strong champion in its own right. We'll see what it looks like alongside this Ezreal. If we are on the new patch, oh man, there's going to be a lot of poke damage there in that bottom lane.
Oh yeah. Now I'm just like, I feel like I've been hoodwinked at the last moment, because the game has changed rather radically. We had like role quest changes, there's new item interactions. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves before we get into the game, and then it still ends up being 26-8, but Jace blind into Ryze Pantheon. I am worried, Grapes. I wanted to see what it was going to be like a comfortable blind here for Swayon, but with the team comp that Top Esports are going for, it seems like they want to match poke for poke, give the Jhin the Karma, and then you're doing what? Now we're going to have Sion as the answer? I think AL came out much more ahead here, and the ability to attack side lanes versus a Jason and Annie just sounds like free pickings for anyone's legend.
Yeah, there's a very clear identity on Top Esports' side, which is to poke with this Jace and also this bottom lane of the Jhin Karma, but will that end up working against this AL composition that is going to work so well in a front-to-back setting with the Seraphine buffing up the entirety of this front line and just having two massive damage dealers in the back line with Shanks and Hope? We'll have to wait and see. Top Esports are going to have to play a little bit unconventional in this one. They'll have to look for picks. They'll have to look for, you know, hard CC from miles away with the deadly flourishes and the anti-stuns and the like. And working around the side lanes as well as Zweon had a tough time, I should say, against Zika's Jace in their last series against Weibo, but it's also his most played champion in the split, 4-0 on it this season.
Please be the new patch, because if it is, then Jace top versus Sion is significantly more playable. Storm Raider Surge, Deathfire Touch, I'm begging you. LPL, let's bring part of the future into the fold. We're 4 days after the patch, whatever, just bring me new patch stuff. Yeah, AL, I'm looking at this, and it's just like, if they don't get any of the first dragons, I think you're still happy. Your 2 and 3 item power spike with Ezreal Rise just sounds way too broken. And top esports, I think their damage is a bit front-loaded. Like, you'll have some burst with Annie, and Jhin, if the eventual late-game fantasy, I'm a bit worried, though. I think it's all mistimed and maybe not all together.
These two teams were facing off in the LPL finals a little over a year ago. Now they're in a battle for positioning in the top 4 of Split 2 in 2026. Our first of 3 straight days in Xi'an is underway as game number 1 begins.
All right. We saw it in the bottom left. Thank you to our producer. 26-8.
Phase rush.
Yep. Phase rush, yeah, is in the game. We did see this yesterday, and because of the new patch, Doran's item, the Doran's shield anyway, does have the new version of the icon. So I think it is just like a repository thing, and they just deleted the old version from the game, and so it just picks the new one. But everything's the same, guys. It is not quite the new version of League of Legends that we are going to be getting accustomed to for playoffs and potentially MSI, but that is further away. So we can go back to normal setups. Junglers are starting the opposite side, and already we have some vision to protect for AL's invades. We've been seeing invades be a really big part of the jungle landscape so far in pro play.
Man, we really just got baited, didn't we? We were so excited talking about these new changes. Oh, AP Ezreal maybe coming in for hope, but nope. We're just going to get the same old stuff as we've seen. Wonder if that just means the rest of the weekend is going to be like that as well, because again, this is a 3-day event to kick off Season 2 in Xi'an. Only time will tell. I know some of the other Tier 1 leagues are going over to this new patch this weekend. We'll see if the LPL does end up following, as TN's going for some early shenanigans here in the mid lane. Clears his top side. Now we'll look for Shanks, who has the wave pushing into him, so likely will not be in any severe danger unless Creme burns a summoner spell or 2. Shanks immediately pops the ghost, and that's all TN's going to get, but you'll take that as a win without having to burn too much else.
Yeah, especially when you're playing Annie. Cool piece of tech you can do is if the Disintegrate Q is mid-air, if you use one of your spells before it hits the target, you can actually make it stun, and so you can kind of bait out your opponent. Great respect, I think, being shown by Shanks to not give over his life, only loses his ghost as well. Could have maybe been an invade angle, but instead Tien not going to lose too much time. However, Pantheon's already done with his 6 camps, and Tien's just now starting his 5th, so that's going to be an immediate grub, or immediate scuttle crab at the top. And I think Swayon needs to be careful, because this wave does not look like it is coming back to him.
This is some of the fear of playing a carry top laner into such a legendary weak side player like Flandre. He knows how to manipulate these matchups to the smallest of degrees to his own advantage. We've sometimes seen Jaces just be able to poke out Scions early in the game and turn that into laning phase advantages. That is not what has happened up here, as Flandre's 1,000+ games in the LPL seem to be paying off so far.
Tarzan's sitting in mid. He just gets the just run away, and they know Pantheon is here, not just from the site, but went for.
Creme's trying to bait. So Tarzan is here, so Tien will follow up with Wind Becomes Lightning, but Tarzan's going to flash himself. Ends up getting the empowered Q next, but he's going to still have a lot of stacks available. Tien rushes forward, but Shanks will follow all the same. It is still Tien ending up taking down Tarzan, and first blood will go to top esports.
25 HP is what I saw in that rise. If that's a double kill, the early game is just done. You're already up 1,000 gold thanks to that play, and Creme gets to shove this wave underneath the turret. Good play coming in, but very tricky, I think, from top esports. This could have backfired very handily if they had not been able to grab that kill. Tarzan overextends, not able to find that either. And all of the worry that I had about Pantheon potentially going topside or trying to abuse one of these lower range matchups ends up not working for them. See it again.
I mean, Tarzan knows that Creme is baiting here, but still goes for the play. Watch the way that his stacks end up working out. He dies with all 5 of the passive up, so he never really got an empowered spell off.
Oh, yeah, no, there it is. There, he doesn't kill TN there. That is crazy. And Shanks living with 20 HP, that's a nail biter, right? Because if you give 2 kills over to an early Xin Zhao, it's not going to be a completed item, but he already has the Tunneler. And look at it, Tarzan's inventory. He's got basics.
Yeah, that's the 400 lead that has already been developed here for Top Esports. We're looking to bounce back after a tough loss to Weibo Gaming a few days ago. A lot of that came in the early game. Weibo has actually been one of the best early game teams that we've seen in the league. Now Top Esports looking to try to replicate some of that here against AL, as Shanks is going to be able to get away for the moment with his phase rush, but one more win becomes lightning from TN. Should be able to finish it off. He dashes forward with the audacious charge and picks up kill number 2 for TES.
And TN gets to do that because they spot Tarzan out. Great job from our observer showing this. They knew that Tarzan is not crossing over into the river. If they don't know, maybe TN pulls back instead, is able to grab that. And now, because they see Tarzan, that's a dragon as well. This is a 2,000 gold lead at 6 minutes. And this is the Top Esports that has been running the league just from an early game perspective.
Yeah, TS did not have this level of early game power against Weibo just a few days ago, but looks like now the narrative is starting to shift. This is, again, seemingly a good matchup for Top Esports over the last couple of years. And immediately after losing at the start of split number 2 here, guess who they played to begin that 12-game win streak? It was against AL. They won 2-0.
It was the donation from AL. Thank you for our win after getting destroyed by IG, and then they were able to bounce back. So very important, and that kind of comes down, going to, at least for this match, going to decide what these two teams look like in top 4. And when I look at the strengths of these two teams, for AL, it has been mid-jungle. Similarly here for Top Esports, I do think that TN and Creme have been a very deadly 2v2. And then I just look across the lanes, who would I give the advantage to? Well, JiaQi and Fengyue have had better games across the board.
Top side, it looks like Zoyan and Flandre still relatively even. The Decimating Smash does connect. Flandre has his ulti and is playing very aggressive. He knows that with the Warden's Mail, never really a threat to die. The Doran Shield is going to keep him nice and healthy, so he is feeling very comfortable in this 1v1 lane.
Zoyan.
The Skies comes forward from Zoyan, though. He's feeling aggressive here in this lane. The Soul Furnace proc does not have the damage issued, and that means that Flandre will not have kill threat and is out of mana as the wave gets pushed underneath his tier 1 turret.
I don't know if we will get a replay of this. Here's an Ezreal ult. I mean, Zoyan's already gone. This is not going to hit anybody. That was very tight timings. I mean, he has the Adaptive Force potion, so he has more damage. He's going to swap into melee form, and then he uses the Hammer Swing to actually stop Flandre from being able to move forward. Flandre tries to cancel it using his ultimate, ends up getting a little bit of chip, but isn't able to force out the flash, which I think is so important. Now with Tarzan having ultimate, this is something that they could have revisited if they were able to grab that summoner spell. So it doesn't turn into anything, but it's just another thing that I...
Oh, Fengyue was backing on a ward, and he's going to go down to Kael because of it. Nicely done by the AL 2v2, utilizing their poke to the absolute fullest. Hope beats a force shot, but he's only going to fall below 500 HP. Going to be completely happy with how things are going down here as AL get right into the driver's seat, back on the board in terms of kills.
Any AL fan is currently thanking me in chat, as they should, for the caster curse, saying that JiaQi and Fengyue are better 2v2. There you go, giving over a kill to Kael. I did just notice Hope got no assist for that, by the way. So that was just a support solo kill being set up there. Good job from Kael. It is fairly large investment, but getting the cleanse out from JiaQi is something that, again, with Tarzan and with Shanks, could be something that they could look forward to try to punish. Grub's going over to AL. Mostly is, I think, going to be something that is a takeaway from Top Esports, but definitely if we're talking about side lanes and later on in the game trying to farm plates, it is something that AL could look to try to generate a little bit of economy.
Yeah, that's a very important sequence there for anyone's Legend who had a lot of things go against them in the first 5 minutes or so. They end up living that on the top side of the map with Flandre. They get all 3 grubs, and then they get a kill into the hands of their Seraphine, maybe. This is the signal for the momentum to start to shift, but still Top Esports with the 1,000 gold lead. TN hovering around the top side. He's spotted on a ward. We'll head right back to his Krugs and continue to farm up.
I wonder if this kind of sounds the alarms for Tarzan to look for something. If there was ever a moment you say, okay, Xin just showed he has to back off. But then I look at the inventories, and stupid caster just decided to say, hey, maybe we should challenge the Xin who already has a Sundered Sky pre-9 minutes. Never mind, we're not doing that. We're walking away from that play right now. Tons of vision from Top Esports, by the way. They know exactly where Tarzan is, and this has been, I think, the biggest way for teams to punish AL is just get vision, track the enemy jungle. Tarzan is such a large part of this team's success that we see it time and time again, end up getting them some pretty big wins if you're able to take away the leader and the vocal one that is leading this team.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this split be such a jungle-focused meta, specifically around the invades that happen in the early game and just the plays that are made across the map in those first 5 minutes. In this game, it was TN who ended up taking advantage of it, both in the mid lane. So, with that all being said, Tarzan now is going to be on the back foot for the remainder of this game. And the good thing about that is that he is a Pantheon. He has still that global, that point-and-click CC. That's not going to change. It's just how much more is he going to be able to provide, especially with now being down a little bit in terms of just the tempo and the itemization. And the vision game is starting to work against him as well.
Thankfully for Tarzan, Xin kit does not have flat armor penetration on it. Just put in the kit in the ultimate. So that is something that does go in his favor. But aside from that, Tien has 2 kills. Sway on. There is technically a Pantheon who could come here if they look for it, but
yeah,
it's the second dragon going over to Top Esports.
So it really is the top side of the map that AL is focusing a lot of their resources on, but down in the bottom lane, Top Esports, despite losing Fengyue off of that strange play, to say the least.
Here we go.
For Kael, end up getting that second dragon. Here's the response, though, as AL will look to take down Zoyan here. The flash underneath his own turret was not going to result in too much, so it will actually lead to his survival for the moment, but the snipe of the Comet Spear from downtown will give Tarzan his first kill of the game. Now in the mid lane, Tien and the rest of TES looking to make a response onto Shanks and Kael. Heals have been burned, tower plates have been shed, but no blood ends up being drawn.
Wow, and that was a clutch flash from Shanks. If he gets hit with that Tibbers, then maybe this whole play completely turns on its head. But AL able to kill the Jace. Good punish as well. Noticing some of the itemization coming on through. It is a completed Star Razor for this Jhin and a Serpent's Fang to start here for Swayon. So won't have maybe the burst or the shielding that something like an Eclipse might give him. But taking away the Soul Furnace that, I mean, Sion already 600 gold up and was able to get some plates thanks to those grubs and that kill. I think AL, despite being down 2 dragons, are not too displeased with the position they find themselves in this game. Just I'm looking at the item completions, and it's rather expensive before we start to see anyone's legend really start to come online.
Certainly gonna take some time, but you're starting to see these little things. Tarzan getting back in the kill column is always going to be a good thing, and they're going to add to that here. Nicely timed ultimate from Flandre is going to get Tarzan kill number 2, and all of a sudden you look at that gold. That was so much in Tien's favor, and Tarzan's done a great job of getting back into this game.
This has been a hallmark of some of Top Esports games. I go back to the very first series of the split where Fengyue was constantly getting caught, whether it was in transition or kind of just being away from JiaQi Love and setting both him and his lane partner behind. Now it's 2 deaths back-to-back where I do think that Top Esports are losing a lot of pressure. Thankfully for them, the fact that they have already set themselves up with 2 dragons, it is a Chemtech Soul as well. It gives them some breathing room, but I'm just worried, especially now that we're going to be walking into a Herald that they haven't really been able to set up. Currently, Fengyue is getting vision on the top side, but look at where AL's wards are right now. They're all littered across the top side of the map, and all in favor for them to be able to pick up someone like this Annie who's going to have to overextend. Look, Shanks is even prepping an ultimate.
There's the Realm Warp. Going to send 2 members up to the top side for AL. Rune Prison not landing just yet, but Kael is right here as well. True Shot Barrage. Oh, they're sending the whole cavalry onto the Annie, and she is just dead. Anyone's legend with a brilliant mid-game to get themselves right back to even in the gold graph.
It's so important for this team to get gold because they generate so much value the faster you're able to complete your items. Rod of Ages, Seraphs complete, Archangels, as well as the Muramana here for Hope. So all of these things kind of compound into a really big problem for Top Esports where they wanted to beat the buzzer. They want to be able to kind of beat the time trials before AL become essentially unkillable later on here in this game. We'll see how that ends up kind of turning out for them. Shanks getting all of this gold on the top side is a very strong kind of conversation and argument to start to see AL move into pole position.
Yeah, we talked about the win conditions for this top esports comp. Once we got into the game, a lot about poke and zoning around neutral objectives and trying to use those long distance spells. These guys aren't going to care about that if they're getting ahead, getting some of their items, right? You got a big Scion up in the front line. You have Tarzan who's able to throw out the Aegis to negate a lot of this long-range damage as well. And even if anyone does get hit, you have a Seraphine here in Kael able to regenerate a lot of that HP. So AL's composition in the 5v5 is going to work really nicely against what top esports have to offer. As I say that, TES look like they still want to try to push the tempo a little bit here as they go towards the Wrist Herald. It's taking very low. Smite secured by Tien, and there's a big unstoppable onslaught on it. JiaQi Love of the Jin is just immediately taken down. TES already without their 80 carry. The Crescent Guard has been popped by Tien, and top esports still looking for the fight. Creme gets hit up by the stun.
Oh, wait a minute!
Goes Zwayan with a huge to the skies, and Shanks gets burned down alongside Tarzan. 2 kills right back for top, and Zwayan isn't just stunned just yet. The ward and the accelerated shock blast's gonna give the Jace a double kill, and this is exactly the fight they were looking for. An ace and the Herald for TES.
And the gold swing here is gonna be massive. Not only is it 2,000 gold, they were up 500 for AL. They need to recall immediately, and are they going to have time to get set up for this dragon? I was looking at that top play saying, okay, AL, you got gold. If you kind of reset in time, you can play for the Herald, but maybe I misunderstood where they were going to be able to do anything. Shanks with no Realm Warp. They trade places. Creme, he walks to the other side of this play, and they trade 80 carries. Tien and Zwayan go straight onto Hope and Kael. They're taken out, and Tien is unkillable here in this fight now. He's popped his Crescent Guard, and Shanks and Tarzan aren't able to do very much in this play. Again, just another reason why we see Karma be so proactive, the team-wide shield, the fact that she can abuse some of these lower-range champions with her tether as well. Zwayan getting 2 kills like that is really big for the game. They get the Herald, they put themselves on soul point, and they even get the mid-tier 1 before they even use the charge of this objective. Top esports have completely brought themselves back here in this game.
We're saying the time was ticking for the scaling to begin to really hurt for AL, and TES certainly were aware of that, and they decided to go for this fight. Speaking of fighting, that's exactly what Tien is going to be doing in the enemy jungle, as well as Flandre is just getting burned down by the might of this Xin. First tower is secured by anyone's legend, or even though the mid-tier 1 was eventually taken down. But top esports doesn't really care about all that because they now have 3 Drakes at 17 minutes. That's a big win condition for this team.
And you look at right now, AL are saying, okay, let's try to go topside. Let's take at least, maybe a Raptor camp. Let's see if we can go towards the lane, but the wave isn't in a very good spot. And now AL, they went into mid. They got that turret. They went into bot side. Zwayan's going to try to squeeze a couple more turret plates. Here's a Pantheon ult, but Tien's here.
Knockup not connecting onto Zwayan. He does have his flash still, but won't be able to use it just yet. Finally, he's able to get away. It's going to get followed up by Flandre, and that's a shutdown into the hands of the Scion. Tien now on the retreat will go towards his Gromp with the Audacious Charge just to try to close the gap is Tarzan. Shanks and Kael are still in the wings, waiting to re-engage. Blast Cone over, but I don't know if Shanks realized that the TS bot lane is here to party as well. Crescent Guard has been popped, and now it is full-on 3v3. Encore still going to find 2 stuns, 2 charms, and the True Shot Barrage will take Fengyue down. And 2v1 now has opened up here as JiaQi Love will also drop 2 kills in favor of anyone's legend as they absolutely overpower top in their own jungle.
Am I allowed to say I'm still kind of okay with that from top esports? Like, we know Creme isn't going to be able to join for this fight, and it's really important for AL to get all of these plates. While this was happening, I think top esports, they traded gold on the map. That's what we saw in the last set of plays, where instead of immediately going for the objective, they made sure their side lanes were in a proper position, and then they moved in. AL, their composition is great at being able to react, great at being able to make fast plays with the Realm Warp and the Grand Starfall, but now they still need to be able to recall and buy all of their items. And I'm looking at this dragon coming up in 2.5 minutes. This is a bit of an overextension, I think, from top esports. JiaQi Love just used his flash, and we can't bring Annie over. This is, I think, just too much from them coming forward for this play. And I honestly, it's good that AL got this. I think top esports probably shouldn't have given them this trade because they could have just gone straight back to some of their lanes and not given over as much gold.
I mean, speaking of gold, take a look at the scoreboard right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1,000 gold lead for top esports, but 2,000 of that is in the hands of Creme, and he was not a part of that fight at all. He was pushing on the top side. It does end up getting TES another turret, which is an advantage to them, but no reason to be fighting for that, especially when you look at the itemization. You don't have a completed Muramana here for Zoyan just yet. JiaQi is going for that rapid fire cannon second. He's really not going to be powerful in terms of the damage he's able to pump out for another probably 10 minutes or so. He gets that Infinity Edge or something along those lines. So the way that these fights have been working out for top, not great unless Creme is here to be able to dish out some of this damage in the mid game.
Great job from the production team over on the LPL showing the total gold graph. Fantastic respect from Swayon. We are doing some wide vision pans. Okay, Pantheon just showed top lane, top esports. This means that your Jace is now allowed to farm the bot lane wave. Congratulations, you got yourself a prize. It's another 150 gold for yourself there. Muramana's almost done though here for Swayon, and I mean Hope's kind of on a similar scale. Will finish his coming up rather soon for this dragon. But I'm looking at what is Rise going to bring to this team comp, because he should be finishing his Rod of Ages in the next few minutes, but probably not before this next dragon. And still doesn't have the Seraph's Embrace. Will need to probably Realm Warp back as he doesn't have Teleport to get back into lane.
They got to get something going quick, though, for AL, because as much as top esports' composition might get outscaled, might not be at its fullest power just yet with this Jhin, how the 5v5 for AL works so well. There's that Soul Dragon spawning in 30 seconds, going to be a lot of increased power for TS if they're able to pick that up, and they've already established dominance around the bottom lane, making sure that it will be a massive challenge for AL to try to enter this river without getting significant push down bottom lane. They're sending the Scion in via a teleport, and they've got to go all out for this fight.
Jhin is going to attend to the mid wave. The teleport quest shield is a lot of HP with the Soul Furnace next to it. I think JiaQi gets a lot of time to be able to move around the map thanks to his Storm Razor and the Fleet Footwork. That's the shield down. Okay, we went through the first part of the phase for this raid boss.
Flandre is a beefy boy, and just his presence alone is enough to allow for AL to regain control of the river. However, without that shield, becomes a little bit more vulnerable and is now down to half HP. The poking and prodding from top esports will eventually result in Flandre going down, but he's going to stay alive long enough to throw out the ultimate and take down the Annie. Grand Starfall comes in and TN's forced to flash away. Anyone's Legend now has an advantage in this fight. Zoyan flashes in, but has to then get on out of there. And now Flandre going to cancel the curtain call. The curtains will be shut right in front of top esports' eyes. There's the Jhin going down. There's 3 kills in favor of Anyone's Legend, and they will deny the Dragon Soul for now.
Massive mistake, and this is going to be Baron here. AL went out big time. Playing in the 5-on-5, if you're going to play with Ezreal and this Rise, you got to be worried about being able to chunk through the front line. Tien feels like he's allowed to do so much with Sundered Sky and Black Cleaver, but they don't have the damage requisite. You were mentioning the fact that Jhin doesn't have 3 items. Swayon and Fengyue, what can you do? How much poke damage can you get down?
The 20-year-old top laner having to do a lot here as the teleport comes in for Creme. He immediately has to flash away from the decimating smash, but throws Tibbers out onto Tarzan. Swayon on the backside is going to force Anyone's Legend back, and the damage from Creme is really starting to come in. The pain train will continue as Flandre is still very low. He throws Tibbers away with the Roar of the Slayer and will allow for Anyone's Legend to live, but the Baron still remains up.
Baron's going to actually be started by top esports. We are going to get a replay after this Baron gets taken, because JiaQi, that curtain call may have costed you the soul, and we'll see if that's necessarily the game. Tarzan doesn't have ultimate. There are no buttons. I think AL, if you fight for this Baron, you might just cost yourself a large portion of this game.
Waiting for that choo-choo train to be called. When will Flandre enter the fight? It will not be in time, as Tien secures the Baron Nashor. And even though they lose the fight down in the Dragon Pit, top esports come away wearing purple.
What a tense game here. We wanted to see a close series. This is top esports coming off of a loss versus Weibo, and AL kind of on the upswing. This is an important week here for AL. They've had 3 series. They've already won their first one. And if they want to have any claim from the community and just from the standings at being a top-level team, taking wins off of top esports and other teams like this is really, really important to do that. So they're keeping it close. And they're going to need to continue, and they're going to have a massive power spike here as Shanks is going to tick over to level 14 with this Rod of Ages being complete soon. He is going to be a beast in these fights, and that 1700 gold lead is going to have to evaporate soon.
Top Esports going to be able to play with a lot of range if they're able to use this Baron buff well. Using the Jin poke, using the Jace shot blast. But right now, they're not really in position to get these waves out into great places. They instead spend that time invading the enemy jungle, trying to get a little bit of damage out. But that doesn't result in these towers going down. And there's already a minute and a half burned off of this Baron power play without much being taken down.
So I think the idea here for Top Esports is that if you go into bot side jungle and you get the timers for his Krugs and his Raptor and his Red, you kind of have an idea as to where his top camps are going to be. And now we are 2 minutes before the Dragon. You have time to push out these next couple of waves, whether that's in top lane or in mid lane. Mid lane's going to always be the easiest one for them to locate, but I think Baron right now for Top Esports is about being able to cheat priority around the map and just getting a wave stacked. If it's just one wave, that's fine. We're not really looking to siege on a turret. We're looking to set up for that objective on the opposite side of the map so that AL eventually have to answer to the top lane.
Well, they will eventually begin to break open these structures, starting with the mid lane tier 2. The inhibitor tower down there left on the menu as they will shift their focus now to the top side. Zwayan getting a wave pushed in. He's 2 levels ahead of Shanks, partly thanks to that top lane quest that accelerates your experience gains. Here's the poke starting to become effective, but Flandre is going to push the initiative, send the ultimate in, but Shanks might have gone a little bit too far forward. Kael throws at the Tron, able to lock down a couple, and Zwayan is going to eventually go down to the might of Tarzan, but on the backside of things, TN is able to assassinate one in his own right. Flandre now unkillable against 3 members of Top Esports, and nobody is going to be close to taking him down. Only down to about 60%, and they're going to be happy with how that one went out. 2 for 1 in favor of anyone's legend as they defend their top lane turret.
If AL were even closer in goal to their opponents, I wonder if that kind of turns on its head, because we saw Fengyue just basically full health shield Swayon during that fight. That guy was unkillable even though Sion and Tarzan were on top of him. Look at this Jace's health bar. If this game was much better in favor of Top Esports, this might have just been a win. He gets more shielding. They try to go on to Shanks. Great flash, and Creme is trying to apply damage, but this front line from AL, man, this Sion and Pantheon is just clogging up the ability for JiaQi to move in, and that's where some of the damage concerns we had start to come true. Creme on side.
In severe danger, already has to go golden, but there's still 3 members of AL down here. He throws Tibbers out and will save his life for the time being. That Dragon is certainly now going to be AL favored. Tarzan's at half HP, but he has the Guardian Angel. He has an extra set of lives, and now Realm Warp's getting sent in to try to choke Zwayan out. He has to flash away, but it immediately gets followed up by 2 flashes of the AL frontline, who are now unkillable here in this game. Flandre going on to Zwayan without a flash should be able to eventually push him out of the picture, as Tian is nearly taken low as well. There's the arcane shift forward, and Hope gets another one into the kill column. 2 more kills in favor of anyone's legend, and they will be able to claim their second Drake of the game.
Well, AL, I hope you thank Flandre for this Sion champion, because he is making it impossible. And Top Esports, they may have just lost their AD carry. That's going to be his cleanse. JiaQi will live, and another Dragon will go over to AL, who are climbing ever so steadily back into position to lead this game from the front.
And not only that, to lead the standings, to push the tempo here in Group Ascend. 3 series win streak for AL. And they're looking to turn it into a 4th year against a team that was presumed to be the best in the league throughout the first half of the regular season. But so far, their composition, the way that they played out this mid to late game arc, has really been at another level.
This is just the life of Jace versus Sion, Ryze, and Pantheon. Fengyue's dead immediately. Maybe a lack of coordination. It does seem like Top Esports are kind of scrambling in these fights, but Tien's just sitting here like, guys, I am probably one of the most OP champions right now with the lead that I got for myself and just how we played this early game, but no one can move this top jungle of AL. The Pandas are too chunky. There are too many Snorlaxes in our way, and we have no Pokeflute to move these guys.
Too much bamboo been consumed.
True. So I'm now looking at this like there's going to be what looks to be a mortal reminder completed soon for JiaQi. Actualizer's already done here for Shanks, a 3-item Scion. You're living the dream as AL. You know your front line is going to be relevant, and maybe Top Esports missed their window to be able to make much happen. And they can't split push now. Just the globals that AL have had access to with no flash on Swayon, those are big ticket items for you to be looking for.
To Top Esports' credit, penetration items are now starting to come through. We have a Surreal for Swayon, just getting the Mortal Reminder for JiaQi. Will that be enough, though? As anyone's legend really are able to play these front-to-backs out well now with the way their composition has been structured. Tarzan face-checking a bush and not caring at all as he already stuns out TN, but now it might be Shanks out of position. He pops the Seraph to the Actualizer, and who's out of position with who? This Rise becomes unkillable and indomitable as 2 to 3 members will eventually go down. Guardian Angel onto TN will save his life, but only momentarily. It's a double kill into the hands of Tarzan, and Baron now belongs to anyone's legend.
I think the target selection from AL has been exquisite in the back half of this game. Tarzan and the rest of the team, they just say, oh, Fengyue, you're dead. You are not allowed to be here as Karma. You don't have a front line, and they're not protecting you. And so when you give up the nice, juicy crab meat that is behind the shell, you get rid of the Karma, and suddenly some of the frontline possibilities for Top Esports dissipate like that. Top Esports lose out on the Baron. AL, 7,000 gold. Every single minute that passes here, Grapes, I start to get less and less kind of enthusiastic about seeing a soul here in this game.
Yeah, it feels like even if Top Esports are able to claim this next dragon, it might not matter in terms of just how far ahead the rest of AL are. Sure, that increased damage reduction or damage resistance when you're low on health is going to be nice, but will it matter if you're playing up against this 7,000 health Scion and this Tarzan champion that seemingly is never going to go down? I think working towards a death stance for his 4th item.
All right, everybody at home, for all the Top Esports fans that are keeping the copium alive, you are essentially saying, please give us another 7 minutes in this game. You're playing 7 minutes in Ascend. We don't have 7 minutes in Nirvana. They played yesterday. If Infinity Edge Jhin, 4th item, is possibilities for Top Esports, that is kind of the only way they can win and kill the Scion. But even that, I think, is really, really hopeful thinking right now. AL are knocking on the base. They've got the Scion splitting in mid, and now they're going to bring some of these minions over, and they're going to go to a 10,000 goal lead before the next dragon even spawns.
It's another fat wave crashed in mid lane at perfect times. Flandre jumps forward with the unstoppable onslaught. Doesn't find a knockup, but is able to find a little bit of poke. Charm will land onto Swayon as well as TN. And without a Guardian Angel, that Xin Zhao gets melted. Fengyue the next target. Creme and JiaQi have to run for the hills, but the hills are too far away from their own Nexus going down. A double kill into the hands of the Ezreal. The Nexus tower is going to start to melt. And AL continue their winning ways. They withstand the early game storm and jump out to a 1-0 series lead over the #1 seed in the LPL.
Well, the hills have eyes, and like I said earlier, the hills might have hands as well. AL, they completely navigate after a bad early game. They've got hands, they've got brains. The only thing we're missing is a hill with legs.
The hills were not running far enough there. As AL end up coming out on top. You saw Flandre's expression. He was like, whatever, I played Scion, let's get this over with. And he walks back out to the right, back to stage left to try to talk to his coach. Give me a better champion, something that has a little bit more impact in the early game. But he certainly was my player of the game. Just the ability to generate pressure, to have as much health and resistance as he did. Really important in terms of swinging those mid-game fights back towards AL.
That's why you cannot blind Jace in this meta. We saw it at the beginning of Split 2. We had a couple of like the Korean and Chinese top laners just deciding like, oh, we're going to blind Jace top. It's OP this game. No, brother, you cannot do that when there are things like Scion up on the table. You have to ban these things away. I'm actually real quick going back to the bans. What did they get rid of? They get rid of Anivia. They were afraid of potentially having to play against Anivia top again versus the Jace, and they got rid of the Yorick. Not enough bans, I think, in my opinion.
I mean, those are good bans against the Jace, but there's just too many answers available. It's one of those things that is going to continue to be a question mark that we throw Top Esports' way. Obviously, Zoyan had an incredible start to the year, namely on champions like the Jace, the Gnar, these hard carries. Once they start to find answers, once the opponents are able to understand how this guy wants to play the game, Will he be able to adjust back? That's always the big thing to focus on for a rookie player like Zwayan. And he did not have the answer against Zika. It didn't seem like he really had the answer in game number 1 against Flandre.
I'm just really impressed by AL with the amount that they've been able to bounce back. I had very early written off this team with them bringing in Bigway after some controversy on BLG with their Worlds run in 2025. I didn't think that Bigway would be the appropriate coach to maybe unlock this team. I said that if they have one bad week, maybe just the mental of this team completely plummets. But there's a lot of experienced voices here. I think especially someone like Flandre that they can lean on. Tarzan and his individual experience really kind of showing up in the forefront there. They were able to problem solve their way out of this early game. It was only a 3,000 gold lead, but we were really looking at the dragon stacking early on for top esports, where we're saying, okay, you can go down some early gold, but you kind of brought it back. I feel so bad for Creme, man. Look at that, like, how often do we see a 40,000 damage almost any game? That is ridiculous.
Yep. What, 1,200 DPM? Got a little bit of help from TN as well, as they were really able to navigate the early game to the fullest as we take a look at some of these replays, starting with these plays here onto Shanks, onto Tarzan. It was once again the story of the TES mid-jungle just dominating the Rift in the early game. But AL were again able to withstand that pressure and come back with a vengeance. Tarzan, knowing that he was behind, does not return to the mid lane, instead looks towards both sides of the map, first here in the top side, then down bottom to get himself back into the game.
And this was another game, I think, where I don't want to say it was Fengyue's fault, but the amount of times we saw AL pick out this rookie player and basically turn him into not only free gold, but also into essentially a free pick, created a lot of issues. This 2v2 for JiaQi Love and Fengyue has not necessarily been solved yet. And so I'm kind of wondering what they are going to look like as we get closer and closer to playoffs, right? We're in the back half of the split. Every team has now played each other once in the round robin, and I think this is where we are going to get the closest and most clear picture of what these teams are going to look like as we get towards those best of fives.
Yeah, and that's where the inexperience for a team like TES might start to come into play. Sure, JiaQi Love and Tien have a lot of experience, but Creme, even in his 3rd year, and then you combine that with the 2 rookies with less than 100 combined games of Tier 1 play. Once those pools start to get pinched, what will that actually look like? We mentioned it earlier this week, but we were talking about it also in the green room today. Top esports haven't played a Game 3 yet, let alone a Game 4 or a Game 5. How much will that impact this team that has looked so good at the start of the regular season?
It's so funny that we kind of bring that up because I just remember Top Esports with Tien back in 2024. This team was incredibly dominant. They would win games and they would look like one of the best teams in the league, but they were kind of known as this kind of like glass jaw team. If you beat them once, they almost never were able to recover, whether that was in best of 3s or best of 5s. We saw them consistently lose out after not being able to adapt properly in series. So I wonder if that is going to be something that continues to follow a player like Tien, about these teams that don't have a lot of resiliency in these longer series. I mean, we even saw him during his tenure on Weibo last year. Kind of hit or miss, a little bit streaky. Obviously, him and Xiaohu didn't seem like they worked together all that well, and there were a lot of other problems with that lineup. But Top Esports, at least this time, Tien looked like one of the best players to start off the season. And we are seeing them start to fall apart. The most well-earned Scion MVP of the year, I think, already.
Yeah, a lot of the time, these Scion players, you get into the back seat, you're like, all right, I'll carry a little bit later on. Flandre was making an impact from minute 1 on this Jace, or on the Scion against Zwayan's Jace, continuing to pressure him out of lane, making sure he never fell too far behind, and then being an absolute unit once we got to those late game team fights that AL dominated so well. So good job for Flandre in, what was it, his 1100th and like 75th game in Tier 1 as of late. So he gets player of the game. Unanimous decision here by the LPL caster. I think unanimous on our front here on the co-stream as well. But that's going to do it for our coverage of game number 1. Before we head to a short break, we want to give a big shout out to everybody watching here on the stream, especially to our coffee supporters. And if you want to support us here on LPL English, you can consider becoming a coffee supporter, as it is the best way to continue to support us here on LPL English financially, with the vast majority of your contributions going directly to the cast and crew that make this show happen every single time we take to the Rift. You can check out the link in the coffee. The link is in the chat right now. You can unlock features like early access, some of the content that we put out, like our weekly podcast, as well as maybe some interviews that are happening. I know internationals are down the line, specifically in NA a little bit later on in the year. We don't know just yet, but we could get some early questions from you guys
our New
on
York
the coffee
ticket
page if you want to take a look at that. Anyone's Legend up 1-0 here in this best of 3 to kick off our 3-day weekend in Xi'an. Will Top Esports play their first Game 3 of the season, or will it be another 2-0 sweep for the Pandas in red? We'll be back after a short break here on LPL English.